The DOJ dismissal of former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn has been put on hold by a federal judge who would like to allow independent prosecutors or independent groups to weigh in on the case. Now, this specifically has to do with Watergate prosecutors who believe that they have a very unique perspective on this case. Now, just to refresh everyone's memory, Michael Flynn was fired by the Trump administration following revelations that he had lied to the FBI during the Russia meddling, election meddling investigation. So he had spoken to Sergei Kislyak, who was the Russian ambassador to the United States, on a few occasions and urged Kislyak, according to reports, to avoid reacting to the Obama administration's implementation of sanctions following Russian meddling in our elections. Now, I've said a million times before, I don't know why he lied about that, but lying to the FBI is a crime, and he had pleaded guilty twice to that crime. And so once the DOJ decides to drop a case against a person who, A, got fired by the Trump administration, and B, has pleaded guilty twice to lying to the FBI, you got to question, like, what's going on and what are the motivations here, right? So now let me give you what the judge is doing. So that's U.S. District Judge Emmet G. Sullivan, and he said in an order that he expects individuals and organizations will seek to intervene in the politically charged case. Having others weigh in could preface more aggressive steps that the federal judge in Washington could take, including holding a hearing to consider what to do. Now, the action by Judge Sullivan appears to rule out immediate action on the Justice Department's decision to reverse course and throw out Flynn's December 2017 guilty plea. Sullivan said he will, quote, at the appropriate time, set a schedule for outside parties to argue against the Justice Department's claims as the government seeks to drop the charges. And so what has the DOJ referenced in their decision to drop this case? Well, they're arguing that the FBI entrapped or committed entrapment in an effort to get Michael Flynn to lie about his contacts with Kislyak. And they're making all these ridiculous things up. There was a big story that I talked about today in a live video about how, Joe Biden and other Obama-era officials had unmasked the identity of Michael Flynn and the classified intelligence reports. Let me just be clear. That is something that happens all the time, all the time. So that's not illegal behavior. That's not an issue when it comes to like the prosecutorial process. They're just doing everything they can to undermine and delegitimize the case against Flynn. And anyone who's actually paying attention to the details knows that it's nonsense, complete and utter nonsense, and an attempt to distract the public from Trump's failed coronavirus response.
Yeah, and I care about what Barr is doing. I care about the precedent that he's setting. I don't like this direction, obviously, and you shouldn't either if you want our servants in government to not flagrantly break the law, and if they do, to not face any consequences. If you want to avoid that, you should care about this too. But in this case, I think that the right wing and me has something in common. It is that I don't care about Michael Flynn at all, and I would be perfectly happy to have never heard his name for the rest of my life. I know that they think that, like, we're on the left so we hate him, like that we're just driven by wanting to, like, take him down and ruin his life. I honestly hadn't thought about him for, like, 6 months at one point. Don't care about him, not interested in him at all, and neither are they, by the way. They'll talk about him, and sure, if it was up to them, if there were two buttons they could press, one, he continues to be prosecuted, goes to jail, the other, he goes free, they'll press it, but they don't care. Like, I don't think Tucker Carlson or Sean Hannity are all that concerned, but they are very interested in using this to help Donald Trump. I think it's futile. I think it's a horrible direction they're going in. But the idea, like crafting this idea of Obamagate, which I think you just described better than I've heard anyone on the right describe what it is actually about. They will talk about it for literally hours on end without ever even indicating what they think happened or what the crime is supposed to be. They do not care about Mike Flynn at all. They think that hypothetically crafting some idea where in Obama, but also, by the way, Biden, we're breaking the law somehow, corruption, sort of, that can create an aura that they can run on. Since they're not going to run the economy anymore because that's been destroyed, and they're certainly not going to do anything having to do with your health or anything like that because they've utterly botched that. He wants to try to recreate the ground that he had in 2016, and also that he thought he would have with Ukraine. I don't think that a lot of people are thinking about that anymore. So this seems like their replacement for that.
I love that you mentioned that it's not about protecting Flynn, or for us, it's not like, oh, we want to see Flynn in prison. It's about the rule of law, right? And it's about setting or avoiding setting a precedent that allows the executive branch and the Department of Justice to abuse its power. And what we've seen over and over again from the Trump administration is one abuse of power after the next, after the next. And what William Barr did here is just wrong. It's just wrong, especially because we're dealing with a person who not only pleaded guilty, but a person who Donald Trump fired and publicly berated for lying to Vice President Mike Pence. And so they keep doing this game where they say one thing, and then all of a sudden, when they want to distract the public from their failures, they'll say something completely different and accuse the Obama administration of criminality. It's pathetic, and I just want to make sure that people are aware of what's really happening, so you don't fall for this nonsense and you don't think that there's actual justification for what William Barr did, because there is none. And if he is able to go through with this, with dropping the case against Michael Flynn, it does set a precedent, and it does weaken the Department of Justice, or at least what the Department of Justice is supposed to do in carrying out the rule of law.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.